This is the Pitt State Basketball Coaches Show with women's head coach Amanda Davied and men's head coach Jeff Boschee. Here's your host, Eddie Lomshek.
Greetings, Pitt State basketball fans. Welcome to our weekly Coaches Shows. Eddie Lomshek to be joined by Pitt State women's basketball coach Amanda Davied. If you're with us on this Monday the 9th on our flagship 100.7 or through the KSHQ app. We are coming off a road swing last week. Gorilla teams both unfortunately dropped games at Emporia State before wins over Newman in Wichita this past Saturday. Keep in mind, Pitt State Athletics will release a video installment of this show Wednesday at noon through their YouTube channel. So, Coach Davied, getting to that time of the year, right? I mean, we're down to the final 3 weeks of the regular season, and that is that qualifies as the nitty-gritty, I think, as they say. But your ball club was split last weekend. We didn't have shows last week because you had a makeup game with Southern. So we have a number of things to talk about as you get this deep in the season. But, through it all, you're 17-5, 10-3 in the conference. Where would you start on how you feel where you are overall?
I would say right now, I was just talking to somebody this morning that I'd say we're kind of at the peak, maybe one game that we probably wish we had back. And you could pick any of them probably, but one or two games. But other than that, I feel like we've really we're bumping our head on what we thought, hey, if we could be this record, we're just talking the record, by the end, I'd be honestly pretty pleased. But I still think, we could have done better in a few games. But some of it's just these kids learning how to compete in our league. And obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about it at the Newman game for sure, Emporia. But how we did compete versus Southern and responded. And so some of those things, kids just have to go through it to understand those things.
If you look at all three of those games, you mentioned the makeup game with Southern, and there were some haymakers when it came to swings and momentum. The Emporia game was more mini runs of 4, 5, 6 points at a time. Newman, maybe people think an unexpected dogfight, but all three of those games, coaches say so many things about this time of the year. Everybody is playing for something. How about all three of those games being as tightly contested as they were?
Absolutely, and there's still so much left to happen in only 6 games. And it's going to come down to a lot of different factors. But I think it's just the epitome of our league. You're playing two teams tied for we think we were one game behind in first. We even the score, we even that, and then you go to Emporia and there's a lot riding on that game for them and for us, but your kids haven't seen that team before, and I really have explained to our kids just what's at stake, and I tell them every time it's not to add pressure, but you need to be aware because you're going to be like, oh, I didn't know. And I said, so whether it's regional or conference, we do go ahead and tell them because they're learning how this works too, like why we schedule certain regional games, why we, just all of it, why it's maybe a road game versus Hayes, why did we do that, and so they're learning those things and the competitive nature of Division II and the way it is, and then it's going to change next year with NPI, but it's kids learning those things, so.
The thing about this group, to be 17-5, 10-3, number one, you've not lost back-to-back games. Number two, you're 8-3 in single-digit games. What's that tell you about your team and maybe you talk about learning to compete?
Well, you've seen it in Harper, you've seen it in our freshmen, and then you've seen it in some the middle class kids that you haven't seen them compete yet. But there's a definite grit to, I think, Harper and our freshmen that they're winners. They are just winners. They've played in those programs. Jemiah Brown's played at North Little Rock. It's a winning program. So she gets it too. It's getting that to come out of JB, get her to be a little more fierce to start. But Harper, there has been times where, like Coach Fritz said, like the look in their eyes just changes. And that's what she talked about with the Southern game was just you guys are looking at each other different. You're talking to each other different. You have answers. You have solutions. And so that's when you got something kind of special.
On top of all that, learning to compete, you go back a couple of games, and we haven't had a show since you played Fort Smith and you played Southern without Jemiah Brown, without Amanda Burns. So talk about being shorthanded as another level of something to compete through.
Yeah, that was, that's something that as a coach, probably in my younger years, even as assistant, and then first year as a head coach, kind of stress out. And then you learn that I mean, you just never know why things happen the way they do. And so we just kind of have a little more of a stoic philosophy these days of just things happen for a reason. It might be to grow you, to stretch you, maybe just part of your journey and get you how you respond to things. And so I've definitely gotten better about those things and just don't waste a lot of energy on the situation, just next task at hand and figure it out and do your best. And so it really did end up being some of the best basketball we had played with 2 people short, and not necessarily because those guys aren't there. We are great to have them back, but it forced our kids to do some things back against the wall we just had to do for the situation. And I think it did prove out to be pretty good. Surprised Southern with the zone. You know, we don't play zone, but it just happened to work.
Yeah, this group, one thing, and I think we touched on this post-game against Southern, you have raved about this group for as much newness as you had at the start. They've been coachable. And sometimes young people can be that sponge, right? They want to soak that stuff up. But you have also been quick to point out some of those freshmen from Arkansas, how well coached they have been, high school and summer ball. And so with all that, you know, when you throw not just a zone, you threw multiple defenses at Southern. Talk about your team preparing for that from a Saturday to a Monday and applying 2 and 3 different looks in that game.
Yeah, when you, as a leader, when you try to tell somebody, hey, this is what we're going to do, and it's totally different, you hope there's a couple like head nods, not like, what? Or grouchy faces about like, what are we doing that for? And I think that is the difference in this group. And, you know, it starts with Harper just being on board. And so there's no wasted time about questions or whatever. We're just doing it. And that's one thing that I've just loved about this group. And their parents and everything, just the trust that they have that whatever decisions we're making, let's just roll with it. And so I think it's been that way all year, and the freshmen are the same way. And yes, they've had exceptional coaching and been already pushed into learning different things. And so we're, again, like, I'm just very blessed to have these things just kind of fall in my lap of like what, and, you know, I'm never going to take over credit, but I am glad that we made some adjustments as a coaching staff. You know, Coach Olson did a great job to scout with Southern, and our staff right now is just totally on board with each other and with the kids. And so there's not any friction. It's just complete all-inness, and we just go. And so really love that.
And that Southern game last Monday, the makeup game from a postponement 9 days prior, great atmosphere for, I mean, it felt every inch the postseason game. And you talk about major swings in momentum. It was amazing how much their first and third quarters mirrored one another, and your second and fourth quarters. And so in that case, I'm glad we got the final swing in. But talk about being down 10-0, 17-5, something that will get overlooked. You bank in a shot at the end of the first quarter, 17-11. How big were those final 6 points of the first quarter to get back in touch?
Huge, and it's also a testimony to your kids when you try to tell them that every time you get to play, whatever, if it's 30 seconds, 4 seconds, 4.5 that Marie got in, we're always playing for some situation. And I'll be full disclosure, it's kind of funny because Hannah Nilgis and I talked. I was like, oh, we should have got Marie back, like, because we're just trying to play defense the 4 seconds. And again, things that just work out that you know, if we had much control as we thought we do in life, and then of course in these little basketball games that coaches think they do. So we fell into that Marie's down there, and I'm like, oh, we should have got her back. So she's already back for defense, and last man back there to defend as tall as she is. And Hannah Nilgis, as soon as she gets that offensive rebound, kicks it, we're in the locker room, and she's like, hey, pretty good job not getting Marie back. Good coach's call. And we just laugh about that stuff because it does bring you back to like, dude, just stop trying to control everything. And so sometimes things just work out.
You know, and there were a couple of plays in that Southern game too, and we'll get to Emporia and Newman as well here most recently, but winning plays in the fourth quarter. Marin Adams had 2 huge steals and hit just an ice water 3. So when you talk about Marin, and I know her dad was one that coached them in the summers, that quartet from Northwest Arkansas and out of Farmington, a winning program. Talk about Marin and just where you feel she is in the process 22 games into her college career.
Yeah, and if I remember right, and I'll get to a good a compliment, a positive in this, but Marin kind of started off rough in that game. She had a couple turnovers.
Yeah, and you sat her.
And I pulled her, and because I think as a coach, I've got to get better about just getting kids a break mentally. Like just give them a reset, get them out real quick, let them clear their head, let them watch something else, and get them out of the spotlight for a second. And so Hannah Miller always goes in, plays pretty good defense. That's one of her strong suits, is getting through ball screens and stuff. So, and then zone, she's a little shaky on, but we really do feel like Marin, like that little quick reset. Then she went in and had a clear head, made some big shots, and there at the end, she's a player. Marin, people have not seen, and I don't even think. Her dad and I would text when she was in high school. He'd send me a little video clip of her doing some amazing split when she splits defenders. And I just shake my head. And she's done that a few times. I think she has so much in her bag that when it gets to these super competitive moments, she'll kind of do a pullback jumper and those things that you're like, what? Where did that come from? So I think she plays a little more reserved, but she has it all in there. So just giving her that confidence to just trust yourself. Yeah. We use that term a lot for girls, I think, especially, like, trust yourself. And with this group, like, they don't have all the moxie that some of our players in the past have. So we got to breathe that into them. And so I think that Marin has a lot left to give.
Yeah, and she's a pretty quiet kid. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting talking to her a little bit once in a while on the floor before the game. And then, you see her game, and you can see the upside with her, no question about it. Much needed win over Missouri Southern for the Gorilla women. Even the score, as Coach mentioned, after falling down in Joplin earlier in the calendar year. Coach, up to Emporia, only meeting of the regular season. What's it like preparing for a team, first time, only time, 20 games in?
Well, it gets to be tough. But I do think, again, that, like, we can't design our own schedule, but I think our schedule was kind of built for this, where we could have some of these games back to back, get our kids to learn the league, how intense they need to be on prepping and those things. And then now we're going to get to where we're back to kind of like the non-con, where we've only seen these teams once, so they know how to prepare. I think probably one of the bigger things was coming off as big of a win. This is something you have to learn too as a player, is never too high, never too low. Coming off that Southern win, which was one that we needed to kind of, make those big plays and big moments. We hadn't made big plays and big moments against a big competitor. With that being a rivalry game, I think that signified that. And we've done it with overtime wins, but we just didn't feel like we had done it against a bigger opponent in name or whatever. So yeah, I think that this will be interesting. So going to that Emporia game, we did not overlook Emporia. I can guarantee you that. We prepared very diligently on that. I think as coaches, we did know it was coming off a big win, but our kids were prepared. The Coleman kid just came. If you look at her other stats, good on her. Like, she met her moment, and then ends up making the game winner. Tough shot. Like, that wasn't an easy shot. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, that's part of it. Obviously, the huge stat for you guys: 2 for 22 from 3, and the irony was 11 games leading into Emporia State. Pitt State women were shooting 42% from 3 over an 11-game stretch, averaging 9 makes per game. Looking back at Emporia, where'd you feel with shot selection?
Yeah, shot selection. I figured it'd probably come up about these threes. Like, I just feel like it was kind of back to some of the three-point selection we had done early in the year. Like, we've had really good kick-out threes. We've had good, just if you're coming behind a screen and you're kind of setting yourself, like those kind of threes, never rushed, never just things that you don't do. How you catch the ball, I think, is important. And just it's doing what we do normally. And so I just feel like those threes were not our typical threes. There were some. The first half, I think we did. The first quarter, I thought we had shots that if we make them, we kind of get this lead. And I think it breeds confidence. You can tell the Newman game, the Emporia game, where they start making threes, it breeds confidence. Yeah. And so we didn't quite have that in the games that we've gotten off to good starts. It's led to that, and I think it's where the mental part of the game comes in. And for other teams, it's about how positive they get against a top 25 team. Man, I've told the girls after the Southern or the Emporia game, I'm tired of being everybody's top 25 win.
They want that signature win.
So, but it's great to be there. But we've got to get a little more. Chip on our shoulder about that. Yeah,
Emporia State going into that game shooting below 30% as a team. They hit 8 triples that night. It's part of it. Coleman, you mentioned, career night with 22 points. And so talk about a career day, and we'll get to that with Newman a little bit. But the other thing about Emporia State, you were in a position to win. Cambry Phillips, you talk about a hustle play on a missed free throw and a go-ahead basket with 2.4 seconds to play. So here's Cambry starting to come into her own a little bit. And how about the position she put you in with those 2 plays?
Yeah, I think Cambry has done a great job after Christmas. And at timely, like we needed that with JB being out. And that's what some of the people they want to talk about, oh, you only beat Newman by this many, and Newman's a great basketball team. Maybe they'll show it against somebody else too. But this team's been through a little bit of adversity lately. Like we've had 2 players out. That affects your practices. That affects a freshman now becoming a starter. That's a different role. People ask, why do you keep the same starters? It's not that big a deal. There's not that much science into it. It's that it's routine. And you want to try to keep, in my opinion, try to keep the same routine. Now, some people want to keep their players on edge. They'll change lineups all the time. That's fine. That's your philosophy. Ours is that try to keep people in the same roles as much as possible. And also throw out there, that's the first 2 minutes of the game potentially, last 2 minutes. There's so many 2-minute segments. Just go in and do your job. And so for Cambry, I think that she's, been in a lot of different scenarios this year, and she has made some big shots for us. Every player on our team has stepped into different games, being the player, making a lot of points. And so all of these little experiences, I hope, are just building us to be our best in February, early March, and giving everybody all these experiences. But Cambry, what a great play. Maybe we laughed about it a little bit, like maybe just kind of threw up a shot and goes in, but that's okay. Like we can have a few breaks. Like we don't have to go against everything. Because we've had some tough breaks too. Like the Newman game, there were some tough breaks in there that we didn't get some things that I feel like could have made a big difference in some go-ahead plays.
So all part of it. You play enough games, 40-minute game, it's going to come down to some of that stuff. And at the end of the season, you hope it favors you a little bit. We need to take our first break. When we come back with Coach David, we'll talk about an overtime win at Newman this past Saturday and also look ahead to a homestand next 4 at home for the Gorilla women. We'll do all of that with Pitt State women's coach Amanda Davied right after this.
The Silverback Fund just helps us go above and beyond to be able to be the best in the MIAA.
You see it as a financial investment, but it's really an investment in people, which is what Pitt State's all about.
We recruit at such a high level. We are competing against a lot of Division I's now. What's going to set us apart and have us in the conversation is the financial part of it.
We couldn't have this success without individual donors, without the community support.
If you're on the fence about giving, come out to games, look at the athletes, and see what kind of experiences they're getting.
Welcome back to the Pitt State Basketball Coaches Shows for this week. Eddie Lomshek along with women's coach Amanda Davied. Gorilla women coming off a split on the road trip. We talked about the loss at Emporia last Thursday night, this past Saturday. In the air capital of Wichita, Gorilla women go in, play Newman. I mentioned this in the open when we signed on the broadcast. A doubleheader where Pitt State favored on paper. Games aren't played on paper. And if the Emporia game wasn't a good example of every player on every team has ability to have capable nights, Newman had that to the nth degree with a young lady that went for 39, tied a school record for scoring for them. So, Coach, you go to Newman, not lost to them since they joined the league. In some ways, there's pressure on you because of that, and you're coming off a gut-wrenching loss not even 48 hours prior. So talk about how you address the quick turnaround given a tough loss at Emporia on Thursday.
Well, there were some things that lingered with the Emporia loss, just some challenges that we had within our team that, just asked people to do better. And so I think that, there was a little bit of adversity too. I'm sure nobody knows, but like JB had a peanut allergy reaction when we were before the Newman game. So again, like some adversity. Give a shout out to our nursing department that Harper Schreiner was on the scene, ready to go. Nobody better for that job because Harper doesn't have a lot of emotion. It's just task at hand. And she was there to, her and Coach Fritz. I went to the hotel, I was gonna watch film, and I get a call, hey, we have a situation here, Coach Fritz. She's like, but it's fine, like I got JB, she's looking for an EpiPen. And then I was like, okay, well, we're gonna send Max. He had his car, so like he'll pick her up. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, situation, we're going to the ER, like whatever. I'm like, what? So it was just a lot. But you do kind of look whole big picture when things like that happen.
Yeah.
And by the time I got home and just reflected a little bit, it's like, big picture is if you got to lose something to gain something else, obviously JB and her health is number one. And so you start to realize how some things get put in perspective and again, some adversity for our team and also though perspective for our team. And so we're just happy that she's feeling better. Again, so Cambry had to step in, be a starter. And so we're tested in all different ways. And that's some things that, competition comes last when that stuff happens. And so, yeah, we're just glad to get the win versus Newman, get out of there, get done with the road trip, get back home and regroup. Yeah,
have a chance to unpack and like I said, settle in. We'll talk about the coming homestand, 4 in a row for the women, 5 for the men. Newman game, back and forth from the word go. Largest lead for either team was 8 points. You go back to Emporia State, largest lead for either team, I think it was 5 points or 6, whatever it was. So you're talking about just tooth and nail fighting. So when you go in to play Newman, it starts with the fact they will let it fly from the 3. They're playing without their leading scorer, McMillan, who was out with a wrist injury, and you guys, I think, knew that going in. But regardless, how scary is a team that's going to chuck 30-plus threes?
Yeah, 33 was what they had the game before. We did all of our prep. We were all aware, and then our heads started swirling with some of their zoom actions and splits actions, and then they made a couple threes, and then they're getting confident, and we're literally like swirling, like we're can't find our man, and it's like, when have we looked like that? So some of that I credit them, and I also discredit our team of like, what in the world are you guys doing? And so there might have been a broken clipboard in the message and all those things, and probably regret that a little bit. Like I probably should have just pulled them in and regrouped. But we wasted that energy then, and we got to halftime. We got to use all of our time. I would let myself calm back down, and we had a good halftime talk about just what do we need to do, like stop swirling and focus, task at hand. And so the girls did do a better job second half, but when you give that team that much confidence from the 3, then you're starting to plug holes other places that it's hard to get everything reeled back in.
So Alexis Martin goes for 39. She has a quick trigger. She, for what she played, 19 minutes a game, averages 11 points. That tells you she's a high volume shooter. What's a scout on a player like that?
Well, she's a little bit of a tough matchup for us just because she is, she's pretty strong build, and so she uses her little jab steps and her head fakes, get you out of position, and then when she gets going downhill, she knows how to use her counter moves and those things, and how to bump off and finish at the rim. And so it's a tough matchup because you want to put somebody like Harper on her that's a little bit taller, bigger, but then she's super quick up at the top with just being deceptive. And so we thought Clara was the best matchup. I mean, I told her after the game, like, hey, man, he held her to 39. Like, she's like, Coach, that's not good. I'm like, well, who else was going to guard her? Like, and so, at some points in those games, it's contain everybody else and just make this kid carry the load. And if she's going to have a signature day, which she did, we hope that our team can find more points, and we did just barely.
Well, yeah, and Harper had the big day for you. 26 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. She continues to climb up so many charts. Harper, when it's all over, her career is just going to be a fantastic body of work. We know that. So for all the newness you had at the start of this season, talk about having a player like Harper, given her experience and everything she's been a part of in the past, and having a player like that to be able to go to in those late game, tight game situations.
Yeah, so proud of her. I sent her a text just yesterday, actually, just about how she has really led this group, and she's coming into her own while doing it. And I just told her, like, dude, you're a better leader than, being when you're in the shadows, like, you're great. But I don't even think you realize how good you can really be. And so it's just so fun to watch as a coach, a kid. And we've said this before, I think when she was here initially and she didn't have her comfort blankets, Corinna, Grace, Sid, and whoever, that it's kind of like, man, all by myself. Like, you're fine. Like, number one, like, don't forget how great of a player you are. Don't forget who you are. And we do that sometimes as a group. We forget who we are as a group and as individuals. It's just a piece of being young. It's a piece of that trust factor about who's around you. And so I think there's starting to be some fun connections right now. And Harper is just shining as her ability as a leader and as her ability as a player, the things that she can do. And it's out of just sheer winner, like she just makes these threes, and I'm just so proud of her. And so we're being able to go to her a little bit more, and she's learning like she can do these things too. Trust yourself, and so I'm just really proud of her.
Well, you see the determination. I think of the overtime win at Cameron against Western Colorado. She was not going to let you lose that game. Same thing, in other tight game situations. Yeah, Harper, 122 games played, 122 starts. The Missouri Southern game, she became the 14th to play in at least 20. She's second all-time in starts. Lizzie Geronimus, the school record with 124, so Harper should break that. Her next game played will move her into a tie for 10th, and then the points, rebounds, assists all speak for themselves. So fantastic body of work. Also in the Newman game, you end up getting to the free throw line 20 more times. Started 12 of 12, finished 12 for 21, so it left for some dicey moments there. But, you talk about playing a 45-minute game, and Marin, 38 and change. Harper, 41 minutes. She sat for 3 minutes and 10 seconds in that game. So how much of the, some of the 1-for-2 trips to the line do you look at as there's going to be some fatigue?
Well, now that you bring that up, we haven't had a day off. Like, we had a voluntary day, but they still came in they chose to watch film and go through a scout, but because of the Southern reschedule, us and Southern probably, I don't know what they do, but we haven't had a day off since then, since the snow day on that Sunday. And so these kids have grinded it out and, stuck it out, and just Marin and Harper and them have all played 35 minutes plus a lot of games in this, and full practices, because we don't take days off. We stay on it. And so they've also had that grit piece to it too, and so that's been another adversity piece. And then we finally have a day off, and it's funny because people talk about like coaches don't get sick during season because you just can't, right? Well, Harper's a little bit under the weather right now, and I think it is because she's known, she has had this, and so your body just knows, your mind knows, and so she's probably recovering right now, but she'll be ready to go.
Coach, the other thing is Claire Swearingen, 14 points at Newman, all came after halftime. So she gets this assignment guarding a player that has a career day, and I'm sure part of that's in your head a little bit. There's obviously been some streakiness when you look at Clara's percentages, but you're also seeing her in certain moments. Talk about where she is in the process of stepping into a much bigger role this season.
Yeah, we called her number a few times, whether it's a matchup situation or just the way they play Clara, if they're going to trail something. So there was a blob there at the end we called for her. And so I think that she's starting to accept some of that responsibility and trust herself again. I do think Harper, we've talked about Grace having that moxie. I think Harper is starting to develop some of that moxie, like just that snarl in her eyes, like I'm not losing this, and makes a big shot, gets to the free throw line, whatever it may be. And then, I think Clara is it's starting to come. Like you can start to tell their words are different. There's some things about them that's getting to be a little bit of that chip on the shoulder. And some of that comes with playing multiple teams twice. You start to get a little more personal with it. So yeah, Clara, I think, is developing that same thing. Being a sophomore, playing a lot of teams twice, having some success of her own, and breeding some confidence.
Yeah, and Claire's another one, really quiet kid. I wish we could sit here and some of the stories you hear about, things you guys try and do just to prod a laugh out of her or whatever it might be. Some of that stuff, a little bit of an introvert, but it's great to see them start to take on. Gorilla women, 20 more free throws, 12 more points at the line, only 9 turnovers. Super job in a 45-minute game, 25-2 advantage in points off turnovers. Pretty big stat, and then 81-76 win at Newman. Coach, we'll wrap it up here, but you're getting ready for 4 straight at home, Western and Northwest this week. So you talked about not a day off. We're in that stretch of the season now. So talk about being at home and hopefully taking advantage of this time.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be something else adversary-wise to stand on, but that's just part of it, and I think this group accepts it pretty well. And again, you just never know why things happen the way they do. And so we're excited to be at home, excited not have to be traveling, but the competition doesn't get any different.
Yeah.
And so there's things about each and every different team that we're about to face that is a difficulty. And hopefully they view us the same way. But yeah, we'll have to be ready to go. There's no doubt about it.
Mental toughness, number one thing that will have to be on display, and hopefully that will be for the Gorilla women. That'll do it for Coach David. We'll take our next break. When we come back, Jeff Boschee will join us on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back to our Pitt State Basketball Coaches Shows on this Monday. Eddie Lomshek now along with men's coach Jeff Boschee. Again, if you're with us on this Monday the 9th, Pitt State coming off a road swing at Emporia State last Thursday, at Newman this past Saturday. And we will be at home this week, Wednesday night with Missouri Western, Saturday with Northwest. For the men, it's 5 straight at home. We'll get to that. And like the women, Pitt State men, just a back and forth game at Emporia that ended up in a 1-possession loss, and then total domination at Newman. So a little better taste in their mouth to finish that road trip. Coach, with that, you sit here and you go, okay, you are where you are record-wise right now. The men's side, obviously Washburn did lose this past Saturday, their first loss, but other than Washburn, it is a logjam. So with that, talk about where you are overall and how you try and stress the importance of every possession to your team.
Yeah, we talked about it in the film session before Newman, and just understanding where we are, one game out of second place, and one game out of potentially not being in the conference tournament.
Yeah,
it's that close of a race, and you look at the things that happen in the league, and Missouri Western or UCO losing at Northwest, and then coming back and beating Missouri Western on their home court, and Missouri Western beating Northwest by 20 on Northwest home court previously, and and our message basically just to me, it's going to be the teams that can come together down the stretch, can be mentally tough to overcome runs, can be mentally tough enough to just be who they are and understand who they are and making winning plays and getting the job done down the stretch. But it's all going to come down to just mental toughness and within those teams of getting wins.
Your game at Newman, obviously, you came out and punched him in the mouth a bunch of times. You pulled a Mike Tyson there. Some of those fights he used to end in 30 seconds. I don't know why you don't just do that every game. Yeah. Go out and jump up 24-2 every game and then set that tone. But obviously, it started at Emporia State, and here's a team 3-9 in the league, and they were on the outside of the conference tournament picture. And yet we talk about how everybody can be playing for something. They had lost 3 in a row, so I'm sure as a coach you anticipated them to have just a tremendous sense of urgency.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you look at the way they've been playing, they've been playing extremely well at home. One possession late in the game against Washburn, beat Central Missouri at home. Play Fort Hays close, beat Nebraska Kearney. So, I mean, they play well at home. They got some talented kids. They got point guard is a jet, and we didn't do our part to get the game off started right defensively. We let 21 get too many open looks and just being not alert off the basketball and defense transition killed us. Actually, our press killed us. I think they got 8 points in the first half off of our press of just us not communicating and getting matched up and hitting threes, or getting downhill and getting to the basket. So, those things, just the start of that game really hurt us. And anytime you're on the road, and I think they had close to 2,000 fans, and
yep.
You got that crowd going, and those guys got excited and just kept on going.
Yeah, at halftime of the women's game, they had a deal where they acknowledged all their student athletes from the fall semester that had a 3.0 or whatever it was. So there were about 250 student athletes acknowledged at halftime, and now they're in the building for the night. And so, yeah, they ended up with over 1,900. They listed on the men's box score for attendance. The three-pointer, I mean, you guys combined for 24 of them. How big did that factor into the scout against Emporia?
Well, we knew, 21, number one, could really shoot the basketball. We didn't expect trying to think of the kid's name.
There's a backup guard that hit a big
Conley.
one. Yeah,
Conley and Mac come in, and Conley hits 2 threes. I think he was shooting 19% from the three-point line, and Mac in the mid-20s, I think, and hit a transition 3 there in the second half. And we just gave up some opportunities where our first defensive shot clock situation, we were pretty good. We get them down into a situation where they have to hoist up a shot, and then we'd give up an offensive rebound. Mace gave up a huge offensive rebound. Connor gave up a huge offensive rebound. Don gave up a huge offensive rebound where they scored off of it. And so those are the little things that we talked about before the Newman game. The things that are killing us in those one possession games at the end where we're losing is we're just not doing the things that we can control. Those are easy things to do. And if you're standing there and a shot goes up and you're sitting there watching the basketball go to the rim, you're obviously not boxing out. That's you got to understand that as a player. And not being alert off the basketball, getting back cut. Those are the things that we can control. And we did it against Newman, and but it can't be a situation where our backs against the wall and okay, now we're going to do it. We got to do it every single night, and we've lost games. Close games on these road trips and at Fort Smith at home because we just weren't doing the things that we can control at a high level.
Yeah, 15 offensive rebounds. That's a huge number in a one-possession game. So got to do better at that. And you mentioned that because there were a couple of fouls called in this game on you guys where you had inside position, and yet you see your guys a couple times get caught flat-footed because a guy behind them gets a rebound, then you get called for a foul for backing into him, right?
Yeah, a couple of them. AC did kind of wrap his arm around the guy. The last second shot in the first half. And that's boxing out and holding the box. But sometimes when you're that low underneath the basket, you understand if it's a long shot. You can't sit and hold your box out underneath the basket because the only basketball you're going to get, the only rebound you're going to get is the one that goes through the net. You got to understand that you got to wedge your guy out of there, push him out. The guards have got to come in and help rebound the basketball. They can't stand and watch and expect those bigs to constantly hold their box out and then go chase, because that's a hard job to do. But there's a couple. In the second half there, AC kind of did the same thing and did a really good job of boxing out, and got low positioning, and of course the ball just goes right over his head and the guy grabs it, and so there's a lot that goes into boxing out, but you got to be physical with it, and sometimes it's you're holding your box out, keeping your guy in, and then somebody's especially the guy who's guarding the get back guy, they got to get in there and help defensive rebound.
And it's something I know we've talked this year about it. You've played without some bigs because of injuries, and as frustrating as that is. So, given that, how big of a concern, if you want to use that term, is your rebounding with this team?
Well, we've shown that we can do it. Don has been really good. Especially the second semester of rebound. We need Elijah to rebound the basketball more. I think he still only had one rebound against Newman. But one thing Elijah does do, he is pretty intentional in boxing out. And like I said before, it is hard sometimes to box out and then go chase and go get the rebound. So, like I said, everybody's got to do their part. Mason's got to do his part. I think he only had one rebound, or maybe no rebounds in the Emporia State game. With just, he's shown the ability to go rebound the basketball. Hayden flies in there, obviously does his job. But, it's concerning, because it's kind of been a bugaboo, especially the Emporia State game, and not being able to get stops and just finishing the possession.
Well, and it's frustrating because, of course, Emporia, after a really hot first half, they shot 39% second half, but that gets negated, right, when you allow possession. So it ends up with being more possessions and not the advantage. Pitt State had 10 less shots in this game because of that, among other things. Did a good job taking care of the ball with 7 points. Connor Rogers had a huge game at Emporia, 29 points, and 23 of those came in the first half. Would you see him, especially in that first 20 minutes?
Well, he kept us in the game. I thought he made some tough shots, and he bailed us out on a few situations where we didn't get much offensively, and he steps up and hits a three. But I thought he didn't have a great game against Fort Smith, so looking for him to come bounce back, and he was literally probably our only offense there in the first half. Mace finally got going there in the second half, but he kept us in the game. I felt like he was just uber aggressive, and we need that from him, and obviously that first half was very important that we had that from him.
A lot of times he's the smallest guy on the court, at 5'11". He's got the muscular stature, but at the same time, you guys, like everybody, you put him in ball screen and switch. So where's Connor in the process of recognizing the matchup, depending on who's guarding him, given some of your ball screens?
Yeah, I think that's one area that he can improve. I think recognizing, getting the switch with the 5-man and not always just settling for a 3-point shot, being able to get downhill, and then also just when you're attacking those bigs on switches, just being able to see the defense and try to collapse the defense, getting in the paint. I think that's an area where he can get better, just blowing by people and getting paint touches to collapse the defense in those situations. Does still need to do a better job of what we call pocket passing and hitting those bigs. I thought we did a better job against Newman, both him and Mace did, and that's something that we talked about. And but he's just got such a scorer's mindset that sometimes he doesn't see all that stuff, but it's obviously something that he can definitely improve on.
Mason English, 16 of his 23 came in the second half, and then Donald Coates, foul trouble in the first half. He played at Emporia, so I'm sure a lot of things going through his mind going back there and playing. He ends up with 10 and 8, and then you see, as we kind of jump to Newman, the kind of game he had there. So talk about Coates and the importance of just staying on the floor and maybe engaged, because you really see his versatility come to the surface.
Yeah, it's obviously. Some of the games, and nothing against Newman, but the talent level as far as what he played against Newman and Emporia a little bit different. But we need the consistency from him of being able to score it down in the block the way he did against Newman. He had a couple finishes, a nice turnaround jumper where he wasn't fading away. He got up off the ground there in the first half, and had a beautiful jump hook where he really elevated over the top and finished there in the second half. And we need more of that. We need a post presence, and he's got to be confident with it and understand that when we do throw him the ball, to be able to make the right read, whether it's a double team coming and make the right pass out, and not being so passive, I guess, when he does get the basketball in the post. He just got to be more aggressive. And then, just our guards got to do a better job, too, of getting the basketball to our bigs, and especially him just in the short roll area, and where, he can catch and finish kind of like he did against Newman a little bit.
Didn't turn it over much, as I mentioned, 7. Unfortunately, Emporia only had 3. You guys are below 12 per year, turnovers per game, so you want to value every possession. Do you consider, 11-ish to be a pretty manageable number?
Well, it depends on where we're at assist-wise. You always want to be 2 to 1. Obviously, you want your guys to be aggressive. You don't want them to be passive. But I can live with mistakes and live with turnovers if they're trying to make something happen. I think as a coach, you don't want we talk about, you don't want casual turnovers. You don't want to be soft with the basketball. You don't want to be soft with the passes or the dribble. Those are the ones that really bother you.
17 lead changes at Emporia. Man, it was punch and counter punch and as back and forth as it gets. But again, you get to a certain time of the year, and when everybody is indeed playing for something, it's what you anticipate, especially on the road in this league. Men fall 81-78. We'll take our final break. When we come back with Coach Boschee, we'll talk about a win at Newman and look forward to 5 consecutive at home for the Gorilla Men. We'll be back right after this.
This isn't just where you go to class. It's where you chase what's possible. Where grit isn't taught, it's lived. Every drop of sweat writes the next chapter in Gorilla history.
Ross out of the backfield, Bratton in trouble, Jordan Rogers!
This is pride. This is your future. This is Pitt State.
Welcome back to our final segment of our basketball coaches shows. Eddie Lomshek along with men's coach Jeff Boschee. Again, we didn't have a show last week. The women had a makeup game. We will not have a show next Monday, the 16th. The men will play Missouri Southern in their makeup game. And then our final show will be the final week of the regular season, Monday the 23rd, leading into a couple of road games for Pitt State. But home games coming up for both teams, so plenty of chances to see the teams in person over the next 2 weeks. Coach, quick turnaround. Like the women, you're coming off this gut-wrenching one-possession loss at Emporia, and it's a Thursday night. You guys stay out on the road and quick turnaround at Newman and no time to, feel sorry for yourself. This league is too unforgiving to be in that situation. Despite Newman's record going in, 5 wins overall, 1-12 in conference. They've had some roster turnover. Mm-hmm. That's still a scary scenario. The last thing you want to do is let a team like that get off to a good start. Boy, your guys did not. 8-0, 24-2, and never let them sniff any kind of momentum. So how pleasing is that as a coach to see your guys really show that kind of bounce back?
Well, it was, obviously what we wanted, and that's something that we talked about in film the night before. Is I wanted to see a dominant performance, and like I said earlier, the things that were killing us in those close games, the Rogers State, the UCO, the Fort Smith, the Emporia State, is just things that we can control. We can control boxing out. We can control being alert off the basketball. We can control sprinting back in transition. You can control communication, and then control those and let your play do what it does. But I wanted to see a dominant performance. We needed a dominant performance. There was nothing. You looked at. I told our guys before the game that night as well. Just like you look at their game against Rogers State, they were in it pretty much the whole game until maybe the last 8 minutes. At UCO, they were in it till the last 3 minutes. I think they were down 8 or so. So it was at least attainable. They beat Northeastern State at their place. They played Arkansas Fort Smith tough till the end. At Fort Smith, so it's one of those we couldn't let them get any confidence, and it's always a tough place to play just because it's such a small environment. It's so loud in there, and if they do get any fans in there and they start get rolling, so it's one that concerns you as a coach, obviously, and then coming off of a loss like we did, where's our mentality going to be? And I was happy with the way our guys responded, and we did the things that we talked about the night before in film.
Yeah, you talk about intimate confines. Fugate Gymnasium at Newman, they list on the door, I think it's 1,200 and change capacity. You thought Robert Ellis Young was small. It's your typical 2A, 3A high school gym. You have about 12 rows of plastic bleachers that run the length of the floor on each side. You have about 12 or 15 feet from the baseline to the double doors. you can be shooting free throws. People are coming and going from the concession stand through the doors right under the basket. So it is, you don't know whether to laugh or to cry sometimes with those things. But, Newman, last in the league in field goal D, last in three-point D, second to last in scoring D. Talk about the things you emphasized to get the production you did with your offense.
Yeah, we knew they're going to play a ton of zone, and so we worked on that in practice on Friday when we got to town, and I thought we did a good job of just getting them out of that pretty quick. I mean, we were moving the ball great. We were screening parts of the zone where it needed to screen. We got pieces of the paint, drive and kick threes, and able to step up and make those shots. But the biggest thing to me was just on the defensive end of the floor. We didn't press because I felt like we were struggling just finding matchups out of our press and giving up too many easy shots. So we just got back and pressed in certain situations, and thought our guys just created a lot of havoc defensively. We guarded their stuff well, for only going over it for one day, and the biggest thing is we just flew around defensively and got points in transition, and weren't having to play against a set defense.
It was a little shorter bench, too. You didn't travel as many guys. You had 10 dressed, and Mason rolls his ankle. You're thinking, golly, these things are coming in. So for all the guys you have on the roster, you've dealt with a revolving door from day one. So talk about where you are with your rotation, and it is what it is at this point, right? You're 20 whatever games in. So talk about dealing with where you are roster-wise.
Yeah, we're playing, comfortably 9 guys right now, which I feel like, 9 guys that can contribute. And we talked about this before, but we need that bench production. We need guys like Landon to come in, like he's got to start making shots. Elijah's got to be more consistent in just everything he does, and I thought he was really good. Hayden stepping up as a starter and playing the way he did was huge for us. But the one guy I think that is just somebody that can really impact the game, that has to do it at a more consistent basis and be confident in what he does, especially on the offensive end, because he is so good defensively on the basketball, is David Coben. I told him on Thursday night, I don't think you understand how good you could be. If somebody would come to our practice on a day-to-day basis and watch him practice, they think he's the best player on the floor.
Yeah.
And that's, why do it in practice and not the games, and when he does it in the games, I told him, you look at the Missouri Southern game, you look at the Northeastern game, you look at the Minnesota State game, when he comes in and tries to make an impact and use his God-given abilities, his speed, his quickness, his ability to get downhill, the way he can pass the basketball, when he uses those in a game situation, he played his over 20 minutes a game, but I told him, I said, if you're not going to do those things on the offensive side of the floor, we got a guy averaging 20 points a game, we got a guy, Mason English, one of the best point guards in the league, we're going to keep them on the floor. So, you got to come in and impact the game on the offensive end as well, and hopefully that gives him a little bit of confidence to continue down the stretch, because we need him, and just his ability to guard and his speed and athleticism, because he can make an impact on the floor.
Find that dog in him, right? Get that switch. Call him names, something, right? Whatever, do some mama jokes or whatever it takes, right, to spark some kids. Coach, you guys, the numbers, 12 triples, that's a really good game. 12 to 27, outstanding. You're 22 for 35 on 2-point field goals. When the ball goes in, you get assist. 29 assists, only 3 turnovers. You talk about tremendous numbers, and obviously season high in assists, season low in turnovers. But it's one thing, Mason has 10 assists, a double-double for him, but you had 7 guys with multiple assists in this game. How about sharing the ball?
Yeah, I thought our guys were really unselfish. I thought we did a good job of recognizing what the defense was doing and making the right play. One stands out later in the second half, Elijah catching the basketball and everybody shifted to his side, and he just makes almost like a no-look pass to the corner to Hayden and hits a wide open 3. Something we've been struggling with a little bit is just understanding, when we're driving the basketball and, that guy one pass away who's in that gap gets sucked in, just quick pitching that out to the perimeter. And our guys, we have unselfish guys. It's just we got to be able to make the right reads. And sometimes I do feel like Mace and Connor, sometimes hold on to the basketball a little bit too long. Sometimes and just got to do a better job of getting rid of it. And everybody plays. It's human nature. If you get to touch the basketball, that you play a lot harder. And we got to make sure that we share that thing.
Donald Coates, season and career high, 18 points, 7 of 10 shooting, made his only triple. Hayden Shanks, you talk about every dog having their day, career high 17, perfect shooting day, 5 for 5, 4 for 4 deep, 3 for 3 at the line, and also 5 assists, no turnovers. So here's Hayden, who's made his living diving on the floor and guarding bigger players, whatever you've asked him to do, he's tried to up his game a little bit. But how nice is it to see a guy like that have that breakout game offensively?
Yeah, well, I'm super proud of him. Just he hadn't been shooting the basketball great, throughout the entire year, and slowly it's been creeping up in his percentages. I think now he's at 37% from the 3-point line.
38.
A ton of makes. I think he's at 14 makes. But we've been in practice, kind of playing him the way other teams have been playing him, as far as just kind of playing off of him and really helping in the gaps for penetration with Mason Connor. And I think he was a little bit struggling with that a little bit, and trying to understand, like, do I shoot it if I'm open, and this and that. And the thing that I told him is just continue. And he's been in after practice. He comes in after practice as soon as we're done, and he stays around and makes a certain amount of threes and with the coaches. And and I just told him and said, hey, you look at somebody like Isaiah Jackson, who played at Northwest. Like, nobody ever guarded him, but it didn't affect his confidence. Like, he continued to do what he did. He played to his strengths. He attacked downhill, got into the paint, found people. And then every once in a while he'd throw in a three here and there. But maybe not shooting that first one if they're not guarding you. Get the ball moving, keep it moving, and then if you get a drive and kick three, shoot it in rhythm, shoot it with confidence, and just understand that we believe in you as a shooter, and obviously he can shoot it. He's just got to believe in himself, and I think it really helps him.
57 points allowed is a really good number. You and every other basketball coach, we ask about keys to the game, and transition defense always comes up. I don't know where it ranked in Newman in terms of, but everybody wants to look to push the ball and get high percentage shots. 4 points allowed, fast break points. So what's that tell you about your guys and getting back and making Newman execute in half court?
Yeah, that's something that we stressed, and it's almost like every team that we've played thus far is just like, we got to sprint back transition, and especially on a miss, and we've been pressing for the most part of the season, but took that press off and just got back into our matchups. I think that helped us a little bit, and just understanding, being in the situation of who you're guarding in the scouting report in practice, and then knowing the sets that they're going through. But I thought we did a lot better job of communicating, but that's something that's huge for us, and we've given up some games where we've had some bad defensive transition games, but I did feel like just having the timely situations where we do press kind of fit us a little bit better.
Forced a 10 count in this game. There was one of those. You guys have plus 10 in turnover margin, 24-2 in points off turnovers. A lot of numbers really favor the Gorilla Men in a lopsided 95-57 win at Newman. They don't happen very often in this league, and especially on the road at this time of the year. So good start to a stretch. Coach, you guys will have a makeup game with Southern next Monday, part of 5 straight at home. Doesn't guarantee anything, but talk about hopefully taking advantage of the home stretch here.
Well, yeah, we do. It's coming down to the end, and not many teams get to play 5 in a row at home, and it's not going to be easy. And starting off with Missouri Western, who has shown that they can beat anybody in the league, and beating UCM and playing Washburn close, and they got a really good coach in McCown, and comes from and did a really good job at Upper Iowa for what they have there, and. So we just got to take advantage. We got to continue to stay hungry. We got to continue, and hopefully we understand, what we did against Newman, the way that we've dominated, the way we played, and obviously understand we're not going to beat every team by 40, but if we can continue to have that same mindset, being alert off the basketball, having great communication, getting back in transition, and eliminate the offensive rebounds and second chance points, I think with the talent that we have, that definitely gives you a lot better shot to get the win.
Homestand will begin with Missouri Western here from St. Joe on Wednesday. Women will tip at 5:30. Men will follow. If you can't be at John Lance Arena, we'll be on the air just after 5 o'clock. That'll do it for us on this Monday. Big thanks to Coach David and Coach Boschee. Thanks as always for being with us. I'm Eddie Lomshek, and go Gorillas.